Followers of the self-declared Hindu Godman Nithyananda, the fugitive spiritual leader who thinks he is the CEO of divinity, have been globe-trotting their way through Latin America in a bid to plant the flag of their imaginary nation, the United States of Kailasa, on other people's land. After their grand plans flopped in Ecuador, Paraguay, and even in New Jersey's Newark, which signed and then frantically unsigned an agreement when someone finally Googled Kailasa, they turned their holy GPS to Bolivia. Between September and November of 2024, they inked contracts with at least 4 unsuspecting indigenous communities to lease their land for 1,000 years with an automatic renewal, because clearly forever just isn't long enough for the spiritual real estate. Now, a representative of the Abora indigenous people signed away 60,000 hectares of their ancestral rainforest home. This was under a so-called perpetual lease for just $108,000 a year. Not long after, a similar fate befell the Kaubaba indigenous people, as one of their representatives agreed to lease 31,000 hectares of sacred land for over $55,000 annually. And if that wasn't bold enough, the contract promised Kailasa full sovereignty, control over airspace, natural resources, and even demanded the communities defend their imaginary empire in court. Yes, they tried to legally colonize parts of the Amazon with fine print and fairy dust. Everything was set until a Bolivian newspaper exposed the scam. The N18G community, part of the affected Indigenous alliance, is now fighting back. Their representatives stated that they were manipulated, misled, and lured in with the promise of easy money. The group released a statement, and I quote, "Our territory is not for sale, it is not for rent, and it is not subject to any kind of negotiation. Our land is the legacy of generations who have cared for and defended it with blood and resistance." End quote. Meanwhile, the Bolivian government is scrambling to distance itself. After the scam came under the spotlight, they issued a statement denying ties. Though a smiling photo of President Luis Arce accepting a Kailasa book from a sari-clad woman isn't helping their case. On the 24th of March, Bolivian authorities made a firm move to protect their sovereignty and indigenous lands. They expelled 20 foreign nationals allegedly linked to Kailasa. The group, which included individuals of Indian, British, and American and Chinese nationalities, had entered Bolivia as tourists. Now, according to the officials, these individuals were actively seeking to acquire land within indigenous territories. And then there's Nithyananda himself. His location remains as secret as the Colonel's chicken recipe. Last week, he popped up with a live presidential address on YouTube, and this was to swat away rumors of his demise and to accuse the media of being anti-Hindu. However, he didn't utter a word about Bolivia. Nithyananda fled India in 2019. This was after he was charged with the abduction of children and raping a follower. But the real head-scratcher remains: how has fugitive Godman Nithyananda continued to evade authorities from global powerhouses like the US and India? How are his followers still managing to woo vulnerable indigenous communities into signing away ancestral lands for a make-believe country that exists only in their imagination? The so-called United States of Kailasa. And perhaps most chilling of all, where will this fantasy empire strike next?
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
No, I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Iran, maybe Russia too. Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.